Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are taking a pretty fascinating intellectual journey.
I think so.
We're going to try and link this vast, almost cosmic operating manual of the universe, the ancient philosophy of Hermeticism, directly to that, that very personal, very specific struggle you face every day when you sit down to start a challenging project.
That's a great way to put it. We're synthesizing two bodies of work that, on the surface, seem completely separate.
They really do.
On one hand, you have the timeless wisdom in the 7 Hermetic laws, and we're mainly looking at that through the analysis of Kybalion. And on the other, you have the super modern, super practical insights from Stephen Pressfield in The War of Art.
And our mission here is, I'll admit, a little ambitious. We're trying to cut a shortcut to realization.
A shortcut, I like that.
Yeah, we want to extract these universal metaphysical laws, the principles that govern the spiritual and mental worlds, and show how they're urgently, practically relevant to conquering procrastination, fear, and inertia.
Basically, we're translating these almost mystical concepts into actionable knowledge for your life right now.
Exactly. And we can start with a really compelling observation that the sources themselves bring up.
Oh, this is one of my favorite points. The curious inability of modern society to generate its own defining symbols.
It's fascinating when you stop to think about it. I mean, we live in an age of unbelievable technological advancement. We have jet aircraft. We're sequencing the human genome.
Particle accelerators.
Yeah.
We're geniuses of technology. We can figure out the how of almost anything material.
Yet when we need to articulate a really fundamental human concept, something like justice or wisdom or love, what do? We reach back thousands of years. We borrow.
We always borrow. We pull out Themis, the blindfolded Greek goddess with the scales, to represent justice.
Still.
And when we talk about love, we invoke Venus or Aphrodite. We haven't created a single enduring, defining symbol for these core human values that is wholly our own.
And that reliance, it's more than just a cultural quirk, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It strongly suggests that the ancient philosophers, the sages, they accessed a profound depth of metaphysical understanding, a real grasp of the meaning behind these concepts.
A meaning that our purely materialistic, technology-obsessed culture seems to lack.
Fundamentally, yes. If your own cultural language can't create the vocabulary for these human concepts, then you're deeply limited in your ability to even deal with them.
Which shows that even a thoroughly modern author like Pressfield, writing about 21st century creative block, had to look back.
He had to. Back to classical literature, to the Odyssey, to the ancient epics, to find the fundamental truth about this internal enemy he calls resistance. The symbols endure because the principles they represent are foundational.
And that is exactly what we're diving into today.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's unpack the source of this profound truth. We have to start with the foundational figure of Hermeticism, Hermes Trismegistus.
The thrice great Hermes. He's generally considered a mythical composite, a sage, maybe a hierophant, a great teacher.
Not necessarily one single historical person.
Probably not. He's often associated directly with the Egyptian god Thoth.
And Thoth was?
Thoth was known as the scribe of the gods. He represents intelligence, discernment, and that profound capacity to, separate the good grain from the chaff, a concept that's often symbolized by the ibis bird.
So we're tracing an intellectual lineage here that goes back how far?
At least 4,000 years. This knowledge spread from Egypt. He was adopted and adapted by the Greeks, where he becomes Hermes, and then later by the Romans, who called him Mercury.
And the key thing is that this knowledge, it wasn't just abstract spirituality, was it?
Not at all. It was meant to be the core operating system, structuring all of reality across 3 crucial planes. There's the spiritual world, the mental world, and the material world.
Which leads us immediately to maybe the most crucial ethical component of Hermeticism, and one that's often forgotten in modern self-help.
Knowledge demands immense responsibility.
This is where we have to distinguish between what the sources call formeso and informeso.
Or in English, we might say the difference between character building and just raw data.
And the sources use this chillingly effective metaphor to explain it: the chariot driver versus the jet pilot.
It's a powerful image. Imagine the vast leap in power between a Roman soldier driving a horse-drawn chariot and a modern pilot in a fighter jet.
I mean, it's night and day.
Right. The technology, the vehicle, has advanced dramatically. But the crucial question is, has the human being piloting that vehicle necessarily advanced in character, in ethical grounding, in empathy or self-control?
And the answer is a pretty clear no.
A resounding no. The philosophical concern is that information and technology, raw power, they only ever potentialize the character that already exists.
So if a person is fundamentally destructive or narcissistic or consumed by ego,
then advanced knowledge just makes them far more efficient at enacting that destruction.
The example that's raised is Adolf Hitler.
A difficult but necessary example. He possessed undeniable genius in oratory and organization. That's high-level information or skill. But that genius didn't elevate his moral character.
It did the opposite.
It tragically potentialized his psychopathy and egoism, allowing him to carry out horrors on a massive industrial scale. Had he been, inept or incompetent, his dangerous ideas would have just been confined to a pub table somewhere.
So the core lesson is that raw data, information, without proper character building, formation, is intrinsically dangerous.
Deeply dangerous. Which is why the Hermetic tradition was so cautious. They had a saying, milk to children and meat to grown men.
Meaning?
The meat of the secret doctrine, these profound laws we're about to discuss, it must be reserved for those who have achieved the moral verticality, the discipline, and ethical foundation to ensure they won't misuse this knowledge.
It's like the invention of nuclear fission.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Atomic energy. Scientifically, it's a tremendous advancement. It provides unprecedented power. But its sheer destructive potential means that in the hands of the morally reckless or immature, it becomes an instrument of genocide.
So philosophy's first job isn't to teach you what to know, but how to be.
You have to become a vessel worthy of the knowledge.
Okay. That sets the necessary ethical framework. Only now, with that understanding, can we introduce the structure of existence itself, the 7 Hermetic laws.
These are the cosmic principles that govern the spiritual, the mental, and the material worlds, all at the same time.
And a really vital point of clarity here, these laws are not a separate checklist.
No, not at all. You have to see them as an interconnected, vibrating web. If you pull on one thread, say, the law of rhythm, you'll find yourself touching the law of polarity and the law of mentalism. They all function together to define the structure of reality.
So we have to understand their integration to apply them effectively.
That's the key.
All right, let's start with the master key then, the foundational principle, mentalism.
The concept is, on the one hand, startlingly simple, but on the other, infinitely profound.
And it is.
The all is mind. The universe is mental.
Okay, unpack that. What does that actually mean?
It's the ultimate principle.
Yeah.
It means that the entire manifest universe, everything we can perceive, measure, and experience, is fundamentally a mental creation.
A mental creation.
It's a transient illusion, a thought form, existing within the infinite, eternal mind of the all, what the sources call O Todo.
So if the universe is a thought, the implications for us, for human existence, are massive.
They're huge. It means that real, definitive transformation can't be achieved just by, treating physical symptoms. It has to start at the source.
Mental plane.
The mental plane. This is the definition of mental alchemy. We are transmuting the quality of our existence by transforming the mind.
So we're not talking about changing physical lead into physical gold.
No, that's a metaphor.
All right.
We're changing the lead man, the ignorant, reactive, brute individual, into the gold man, the wise, conscious, self-directed being.
Yeah.
And we do it through intentional, disciplined thought.
And this is where the contrast between that ancient wisdom and our modern society is just so sharp.
Oh, it's a chasm. Modernity is brilliant at technical know-how. We know the precise formula for gravity. We can calculate the molecular chemistry of paint. We know the how. But the ancients, particularly the Egyptians, they prioritized reading the meaning, the grammar, the symbolism that life is constantly communicating to us.
So we know how to build the clock, but we've forgotten how to read the time of our own lives.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Let's use that relatable example from the source. You're standing in a queue. It could be at the bank, the supermarket, the airport.
We've all been there.
You choose a line, and immediately that line just stops moving, or every other line speeds up.
And the purely technical, materialistic mindset labels this bad luck or coincidence. Maybe you get frustrated at the external world, the slow cashier.
But the mindset trained in mentalism asks a different question.
A totally different question. It asks, what is this communication? What is the life trying to tell me right now? Is it suggesting a need for more patience? Is it subtly pointing out my internal self-importance or my obsessive need for efficiency, which is creating friction with the universal rhythm?
So it's about learning a symbolic language.
Exactly. Technical knowledge lets you manipulate the physical world. Mental alchemy lets you understand the meaning of the world as a manifestation of the mind of the all. It moves you from being a victim of circumstance to an active participant.
Okay, so from that foundation of thought, we move to the second law, which is correspondence.
As above, so below, as below, so above. This is the key that unlocks that symbolic grammar we were just talking about.
It's the great mirror.
The great mirror. The cosmic forces governing the stars, the movements of entire galaxies, the macrocosm, also govern the small details of your daily life, your internal struggles, the microcosm.
So if you can understand the principle in one dimension,
you can decode the same principle in the other. It's profoundly didactic. It teaches us that our internal state must correspond to an external manifestation, and vice versa. The physical world is just the densest, slowest manifestation of mental energy.
Okay, so let's start with a simple application.
Go for it.
If you are mentally disorganized, perpetually distracted, you can't seem to finish a project.
You will almost certainly find physical manifestations of that chaos. A perpetually messy desk, a chaotic junk drawer, a failure to organize your finances. The internal disorder mirrors the external.
But let's take this to a higher level, like the sources suggest. If we look at modern systems, say the structure of a major corporation or the chaos in political life,
or the instability of the global economy.
Those structures aren't arbitrary, are they?
No, they are correspondence of the collective, unexamined consciousness of the people who build and participate in those systems.
That's a huge insight. So if a company is built on a foundation of fear and hierarchy and just relentless competition,
that external corporate structure is just reflecting a collective, internal failure to harmonize, a lack of unity and purpose. The chaos we see in the streets or in governance is merely the manifestation of the chaotic thoughts, the biases, the unexamined psychological baggage of everyone involved.
So correspondence gives us a critical diagnostic tool.
The best one there is. When you're looking at a system that's failing, you shouldn't just tinker with the external variables, the budgets or the org charts.
You have to look deeper.
You have to recognize that the fault lies in the thinking, the consciousness that created that structure in the first place. You cannot build a peaceful world with a mind that's at war with itself.
Wow. That really raises the stakes of self-improvement and makes it almost astronomical. If my small internal struggle with concentration reflects cosmic forces, then my failure to act on my highest purpose isn't just me being lazy.
It's a profound clashing with the universal structure of law.
And that clashing is necessary for development, which brings us to the third law, polarity.
Right. Everything has its pair of opposites, which are absolutely identical in nature, but differ only in degree.
Hot and cold, light and dark, large and small.
Exactly. They aren't separate realities. They're just different degrees on the same spectrum, separated by vibration. The core principle here is that all perceived paradoxes can ultimately be reconciled because they are two sides of the same coin.
So this law immediately dismantles that simplistic Manichaean worldview we're often fed.
What we could call TV novel psychology.
Right. The world isn't divided into clear 100% good guys and 100% evil guys locked in this eternal static opposition.
But here's where a crucial question comes up, and the listener who raised it is spot on. If everything is just a matter of degree, why isn't something like genocide just another degree of human interaction? Where does objective morality fit into this spectrum?
A very important question.
It is, and it's precisely the point where the Hermetic framework deepens. In the material world, yes, heat and cold are equally real, just different rates of vibration. But when we ascend to the mental and spiritual planes, the polarity becomes hierarchical.
Okay. Hierarchy. So we move beyond simple difference into inherent value.
Correct. On the moral plane, justice is intrinsically superior to injustice. Love is superior to hate. These are not just subjective choices. They are closer to the unified principle of the all.
So no being in the universe is absolutely purely evil.
That's the logic. Such an absolute would contradict the very nature of the mind of the all. But beings can certainly choose the lower, less unified, more destructive pole.
So human evolution, that form of sun or character building we talked about earlier, is the conscious application of willpower von Tide to consciously choose the superior, higher vibration pole.
Even when the lower one feels easier or more reactive, you aren't eliminating the pole of hate, but you are transmuting your energy to the pole of love.
This is why the sources stress the importance of seeing the matizes, the nuances in character.
Exactly. The great Brazilian novelist Machado de Assis, he criticized writers like Essa de Queiroz because their characters were often too neat. The good guys were too idiotic, and the bad guys were purely wicked.
And real life, governed by polarity, is complex.
It's messy. Good people make bad choices, and destructive people can have moments of surprising generosity. We have to look for the unity within the dualities to avoid being simplistic.
Now, when these poles, these dualities, begin to manifest in time, they create cycles, and that introduces the fourth law, rhythm.
Everything flows out and flows back in. Everything oscillates like a pendulum. The rhythm principle dictates that there's always expansion and contraction.
We see this in world history, right?
All the time. Eras of intense spiritual fanaticism swing violently into eras of extreme materialism and technological pursuit. And we see it psychologically in ourselves. Periods of euphoria swinging into periods of deep melancholy.
And here's the great danger, and I think the primary way that resistance attacks. It's when you lose your center and become a mere pendulum.
An emotional cycle time, just tossed about by external social and psychological currents.
Your emotional state feels completely out of your control. It's entirely reactive to whether the stock market is up or down, or whether someone complimented you on social media.
And rhythm ensures that the high point of expansion will lead, inevitably, to contraction. But the key to mastery isn't stopping the rhythm.
You can't.
You can't. The law is inviolable. The key is rising above its compulsive effect. And this is achieved through transmutation, which is mental alchemy applied directly by focused willpower vantade.
Okay, so how does that actually work in practice? If I'm battling procrastination, which feels like a symptom of this psychological rhythm, a contraction after an attempted expansion, how do I use willpower to break the cycle?
You're not destroying the tendency. You're changing the level at which the tendency operates.
Yeah.
So when you feel that downswing of contraction, instead of succumbing to the impulse to self-sabotage, to watch TV, to do anything else,
Right.
you actively choose the higher pull patience, dedication, sustained effort through willpower. You maintain your center. You can't abolish the wave, but you can learn to surf it.
So it's a continuous, focused effort. It's not one big heroic victory.
No, and the sources have that wonderful analogy about overcoming a defect. It's like Benjamin Franklin's supposed 999 failed attempts to invent the light bulb. The eventual success is the result of countless conscious attempts to choose the higher pull. Every time you consciously choose to remain patient instead of becoming irritated, you're moving up the spiral of consciousness. The rhythm is still there, but you're operating at a level where the old irritations no longer knock you off your center.
So the focus has to be on generating new causes.
That's it. If you've been defined by cyclical depression or anxiety for 20 years, that pattern is just the effect of 20 years of generating the same mental causes. To transmute, you must use willpower to introduce a new, higher-level cause. That's what breaks the compulsion.
This focus on generating new causes leads us inevitably to the fifth law, causality.
The principle is absolute. Every cause has its effect, and every effect has its cause. There are no accidents, only law.
That's a big one, no accidents.
It binds the universe into an intelligent, coherent whole. The very idea of the all-existing, of an intelligent universe, inherently banishes the concept of accident and caso.
Why is that?
Because if a single molecule of pure, uncaused randomness existed, it would shatter the order of the cosmos. It would throw the intelligence of the all into question.
And on a personal level, it forces us to confront all our excuses.
All of them. If nothing is random, then the bad luck, the setbacks, those frustrating cues we talked about, they're all consequences. They are effects that have precise, traceable causes, often generated by our own prior actions, thoughts, or neglect.
So it compels us to adopt the posture of a constant learner, an apprentice.
Absolutely. Nothing that happens to you is just random punishment or undeserved fortune. Everything is a lesson. Everything is a consequence. We have to diligently read the grammar of life because it's constantly teaching us based on what we have sown.
Which, of course, forces us to address that age-old philosophical problem,
Right.
Free will versus determinism. If everything is cause and effect, how can we possibly be free?
A great and necessary question. Freedom, according to this philosophy, resides only in the field of causes.
What does that mean?
It means you are profoundly free to choose what you do now, to choose the higher pull, to generate a new intention, to apply willpower. That choice is yours and yours alone. But, and this is a big but, once that choice is made, the consequences, the effects, are rigidly determined. They're absolutely mathematically fixed.
So you can't choose the consequence. That's the hard truth.
Precisely. Helena Blavatsky, who explored these principles so deeply, stated it starkly. Not even the gods can change the consequences whose causes have already been generated.
That's a powerful statement.
It is. If you jump off a cliff, you are free to choose to jump. That's the cause. But no amount of subsequent prayer will change the fact that gravity, the effect, will follow its course.
So if we continue to generate the same causes, the same procrastination, the same reactive anger, the same low-level thinking, our life trajectory is entirely predictable.
Completely. Our inherited personality, what the sources call the mass prepared for us at the cradle, is our destiny. Unless we exercise our freedom by generating radically new, high-vibration causes through conscious willpower, the freedom is in the intention, in that initial act.
Okay, now let's take all these cosmic principles we've established, mentalism, polarity, causality, and apply them to that immediate grinding struggle for self-realization. And here we pull in Stephen Pressfield's essential insights.
This is where it gets very practical. The battlefield is not external, it's internal. And the enemy has a name: resistance.
And how does Pressfield define resistance?
As the internal, insidious force that seeks to deform the spirit, to make us less than we were born to be. It's the purest expression of egoism, inertia, and fear. It is the force that seeks to pull us back toward the lower pole.
And the most important insight about it is that it's activated only when you attempt an ascent.
Right. It doesn't bother you if you're standing still or going downhill.
Not at all. The sources are very clear on this. Going down, every saint helps. It's easy to be mediocre. It takes tremendous energy to transcend. Resistance only attacks when you strive toward a higher level of consciousness, a spiritual commitment, an artistic vocation, or an altruistic act.
So the resistance is the perfect practical application of polarity and rhythm. It's constantly trying to force that pendulum back down to chaos. And here is its greatest utility.
A utility. It feels like an enemy.
But it's also a tool. Resistance is infallible. It acts as a compass. The thing it most violently prevents you from doing, that book you need to write, that business you need to start, that act of service you need to commit to.
That's probably the thing you're supposed to be doing.
It's very likely the sacred duty you came here to fulfill. It's a powerful detector of purpose.
This sacred duty, this is what the ancient Romans called the genio for men or Juno for women, right?
Exactly. The unique, sacred word or message that only you can deliver to the world. It's the unique blueprint of your potential.
And if we fail to deliver it,
something sacred is lost forever. The sources use that vivid, powerful analogy of Phidippides, the marathon runner. He ran 26 miles after the Battle of Marathon, arriving in Athens with just enough breath left to gasp, "We won!" Vensmos, before collapsing and dying. That single word was essential. If he had hesitated, if he had collapsed miles earlier, Athens might have been destroyed by fear.
And our word, our message is just as critical. If we collapse before delivering our unique purpose, we're left with a not-lived life.
And that potential energy doesn't just disappear. It relentlessly pursues us, manifesting as symptoms designed to distract us from the truth.
And these symptoms, resistance manifests in predictable ways, doesn't it?
Very predictable, identifiable ways. First, it generates boredom and disgust. Life feels flat, repetitive, meaningless because you're actively refusing to engage in the very thing that gives it meaning.
Second, we seek comfort in vices and distractions.
Compulsive shopping, excessive alcohol, obsession with food, mindless entertainment. These are short-term pleasure hits that provide rapid, superficial satisfaction, but ultimately lead to profound interior emptiness. And that just perpetuates the cycle.
And the third one is maybe the most subtle.
It is. Resistance manufactures external problems or neuroses to justify non-action. The person who is constantly battling with their family or loses their job through manufactured conflict or develops complicated, distracting illnesses.
They're often unconsciously inventing confusion.
Exactly. So they can say, "Oh, I can't start my sacred duty. I have to spend all my energy fighting this external chaos." It's a calculated flight from commitment.
And you have to watch out for the final attack. Resistance is strongest right at the moment of completion, on the home stretch.
Which is a perfect application of the law of rhythm, that intense contraction right before success. Think of Ulysses in the Odyssey.
The bag of winds.
The bag of winds. After years of struggle, he was so close to home he could smell the smoke from Ithaca. He decides to take a short nap. His sailors, believing his magical bag of adverse winds contained gold, opened it.
And it blew them all the way back.
All the way back, condemning them to further years of wandering. You cannot relax, you can't celebrate or claim victory until you are standing firmly on your desired ground.
So to defeat this enemy, Pressfield advocates for this dramatic shift in identity. You have to become the professional.
And this is the application of sustained willpower von Tide in practice. The professional treats their essential calling, their dream, their art, their commitment as a sacred duty. A sacro officio.
A life or death job.
A life or death job they commit daily, They punch the clock Bader Ponto. They work in full-time dedication even if they only have 15 minutes a day to spare. The amateur treats it as a hobby, a passatempo. The professional treats it as an inexorable daily requirement, as certain as the rotation of the Earth.
And the mindset required is what's called the poor sap mentality, borrowed from the U.S. Marines.
Right. The Marine embraces the cold, the hardship, the high risk. They are a volunteer for the inferno. You have to expect isolation, criticism, and self-doubt. You stop relying on external comfort.
And crucially, the professional must self-validate. Homologer asi proprio.
Yes. The amateur needs external praise. They only show their work to friends who will tell them it's genius. The professional steps into the real world, accepts the brutal honesty of the market or the critics, and measures their success purely by whether they kept their commitment to their soul.
So the validation comes from the work itself, not the outcome.
The work itself. And the professional focuses relentlessly on dominating the technique, the how. They're meticulous about their craft, cleaning their workspace, adhering to a schedule. They understand they have to prepare the environment for inspiration, the what to descend.
There's a humility to that.
The necessary humility. Inspiration is divine, and the act of creation is a ceremonial. You have to clean the doormat for the muses. We see this even in legendary figures. Tiger Woods, one of the greatest golfers in history, still employs a coach and seeks technical instruction. He never assumes he knows everything.
Plato, in Phaedro, argued that the performance of the inspired lunatic, the person who receives the divine what, will always eclipse the pure technician.
But you must first achieve the rigorous technique to even be available to receive that inspiration. If you profane the work, if you chase fame or ego or money, you're using divine products for petty human appetites. And the muses will be furious.
Which leads us to the final application in this struggle. Territorial versus hierarchical orientation.
Which is a direct application of polarity to your motivation.
Hierarchy is looking outward for validation, right? Sales rankings, prestigious titles, pleasing the market.
The work becomes mercenary. The hierarchical person defines their worth by who is above them and who is below them on the ladder. They're defined by the pecking order, like chickens in a yard.
And territorial is looking inward.
It's dedicating love and energy to the work or the art itself. The territory feeds the soul. When Arnold Schwarzenegger was depressed, he went to the gym. When Stevie Wonder felt lost, he went to the piano.
They didn't need an audience.
No. The act of dedicated work itself sustained them. The energy you invest is returned tenfold by the territory.
Pressfield himself is a great example of this. His agent thought his idea for the Legend of Baggervance, a golf romance, was financially suicidal.
Tough sell.
But Pressfield was seized by the inspiration, and he had to commit to that territorial orientation. He trusted his internal guidance over the external market demands, and it became one of his most successful works.
The rule of thumb is this. If you would still pursue your essential calling, even if you were the last human being on Earth, you have the correct territorial orientation.
Okay, let's return to the Hermetic laws for one final critical principle that underpins mental creation. This is the principle of gender, or genero.
Right. And while this applies to everything in the universe, from the nucleus, an electron, and an atom to the vast cosmos, we're going to focus specifically on mental gender.
So the mind itself has both a masculine and a feminine pole.
It does. The masculine pole is willpower, vante projection, discrimination, and the sowing the seeds of ideas. The feminine pole is the matrix. It's about development, receptivity, incubation, and the generation of life.
And this is a direct parallel to the cosmic process.
A perfect parallel. The 7 laws themselves are the seeds of truth that fall into the feminine matrix of the mind of the all to create the universe. We are meant to mirror this internal creative process.
So where does the danger come in?
The profound danger arises when the masculine pole, willpower and discernment, is weak or neglected. The feminine mind, the matrix, is constantly waiting to incubate, to generate, to bring ideas to life. But if the masculine pole doesn't sow its own seeds of original thought,
the mind becomes a foreign matrix, a matrix alia, which brings us back to the cuckoo's egg analogy. This feels like a direct link to that initial observation that modern society struggles to create its own symbols.
It absolutely is. The cuckoo bird puts its egg in another bird's nest. The host bird, because of its blind nurturing instinct, raises the foreign chick, convinced it's its own, often to the detriment of its original offspring.
And this is exactly what happens when we fill the mental vacuum.
If you lack a clear, defined sense of self or purpose or will, your mind is, as they say, a toa at leisure. And nature abhors a vacuum. Someone else's ideas, a political dogma, a consumerist trend projected through media, a social obsession, will be subtly or even telepathically projected into your mental matrix.
And because that feminine pole is such a powerful generator,
You will then use your own intelligence and your own energy to elaborate and defend those foreign ideas, convinced they are your original conclusions, simply because you are the one who hatched them and brought them to fruition. You have been weaponized by an external idea.
So the philosophical act of building an identity is the ultimate use of willpower.
It has to be constructed. It's not about passive survival or letting inherited personality traits define us. It is an act of vontad. I am this because I choose to be this way. I reject the spontaneous reaction of anger because I choose to embody the pole of patience.
And this conscious definition of the self, achieved through willpower, provides the necessary discernment, the defenses against the cuckoo's egg.
Yes, against mental manipulation. It allows us to ask that vital, self-protecting question. Are these ideas really mine, or have I bought them ready-made from someone else's agenda? If you don't define who you are, you become an unconscious executor of collective and often chaotic processes.
So if we synthesize this entire deep dive, the central truth connecting these ancient laws to our modern struggle is really this. The 7 Hermetic principles prove that life isn't random chaos.
No, it's an intelligent, readable grammar structured by law.
And the path to human realization, it isn't passive survival. It's conscious evolution achieved by mastering the mental plane. We have to use deliberate willpower vontade to neutralize internal resistance,
Allowing us to operate as professionals in our unique, sacred duty.
And this individual transformation has massive implications that go way beyond just our personal success.
Oh, absolutely. Your transformed life becomes a reference point for others. It proves that human potential is real, not just theoretical. It's the profound lesson of the old woman with the small lamp at Benares.
Tell that story.
The legend tells of a dark night and a storm that put out all the great torches carried by the important people. But her tiny lamp, fueled by a deep conviction and protected by her own body, remained lit.
And that small, unwavering light was enough.
It was enough to guide everyone else back to safety. It allowed them to distinguish the true, calm voice of wisdom from the confused voices of men. Your transformed life, your small lamp of self-mastery, is that guide for others.
So your success is proof for the entire human collective.
It is. And let's end with that beautiful, provocative thought from Helena Blavatsky.
What is it?
A single drop of water proves the existence of the ocean, and a single human being proves the existence of God.
Wow. If one person achieves the full realization of their potential, it proves that potential exists for every single person listening right now. So the question for you is, what single decisive act of willpower, what committed choice against resistance will you commit to today to begin proving that potential in yourself?
Something to think about.
Think about that commitment as you navigate the cycles and polarities of your day. Until next time.
Farewell.